Due diligence is a critical step in the business development process, but we understand that it can be something of a black box looking in from outside. It can be intimidating, a little threatening, but it doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be an adversarial process because it's the first opportunity often for our teams to interact, and therefore it's a really important step in building the relationships that are going to be critical to the long-term success of the partnership.
Diligence has a broader scope than initial evaluation. Diligence includes assessing the quality of the science, but we go further than that. We also assess other factors that might impact the cost or timing of development, or the commercial value of the opportunity. Most notably, we move into intellectual property, manufacturing, and legal considerations.
Diligence should be a totally impartial and objective process. We want it to be based on facts and data that our functional experts can interpret and develop conclusions upon.
The output from due diligence is a key informer of our decision to invest. It updates the business case, it provides context for the transaction team as they consider the financial and the contractual terms, but perhaps most importantly, it forms the basis for our briefings to stakeholders.
We will be asked to confirm if the asset really can deliver the science and the value that the business case assumed, to provide guidance on how we can best deploy our resources and expertise to help unlock and create the maximum long-term value from our collaboration.
Our role as due diligence leads is to understand, firstly, what AstraZeneca's objectives are for the transaction and what the intended structure of the deal will be. Also really important for us to understand is where most value is coming from. For example, in a single drug license, which are the important markets or which indications are really driving value. We assemble a team of experts from each function, so for example, regulatory, clinical, manufacturing, legal. It could be a really big team, in some instances of 40+ individuals from across the globe.
We will be your primary contact point during diligence. It's true that our primary responsibility is to AstraZeneca, but we also recognise that we have a role in ensuring that we allow you to present everything that you need us to know. We may want to have access to raw data, for example, clinical or safety data, but that does not mean that we don't trust your analysis. It may be that we want to take the asset down different paths that you have not considered. We understand that you will want to protect the confidentiality of your information and IP, and so we ring-fence our own team. And we also work to strike the right balance between hard disclosures, data, documents, versus disclosures via subject matter expert interactions with your team.
The focus is really on the risks which underpin the key value drivers for the deal, such as a particularly important indication. In order to complete this assessment, our functional experts will make requests for information during due diligence to complement the information provided typically in an electronic data room. It's also likely that we'll request subject matter expert calls so that our respective functional leads can discuss key points in more detail.
We understand that drug development is inherently risky and that all programs have gaps. We don't expect perfection and benchmark risk profiles relative to an internal program at the same development stage.
We try really hard not to make the interactions adversarial during due diligence, but it's important to understand that our stakeholders will expect us to ask really tough questions. So the relationship between your diligence lead and ours is really important to making the process work.
Be open with us upfront about what you are and are not going to be able to disclose to us and why. It's important for us to understand why information is not being shared. It avoids misinterpreting reasons for not providing, such as a genuine IP or confidentiality issue versus trying to withhold data.
And bear in mind, we are playing this back to our stakeholders and we're going to have to give them a measure of how confident we are in the disclosures that we've received. They'll be expecting us to answer some really critical questions. Does the asset deliver the science? Does it deliver the value that we've assumed in the business case? Does it deliver all of the assumptions we've made in the business case? How can we best deploy our resources and our expertise to generate the maximum long-term value in the collaboration?
Expect us to ask you detailed questions during the diligence process. We appreciate this can be burdensome, but this questioning is ultimately good for both parties. It enables us to put mitigation plans in place and identify upside opportunities, such as an additional indication or an accelerated development timeline. I'd also say you should be as prepared as you possibly can be. It's likely we'll need to see third-party agreements, such as upstream licenses or manufacturing agreements. And having these prepared to share in advance is really important, including seeking the necessary consents to do so.
Use a good data room platform, not a generic file share facility. This is in both parties' interests. It enables a well-structured data room, and it also enables you to control and secure your confidential data. This reduces the questions and speeds up the diligence process.
Build your experts to meet with our team. Understanding your science and innovation are vital, but getting an insight into the capabilities of your team is critical. Remember this, if we conclude the transaction, the contract will be between our companies, but the partnership will be between our people.